Good. This is the lore panel for Final Fantasy XIV Fan Festival. Let me please welcome to the stage our lore master, Mr. Michael Christopher Koji Fox.
Lore. It's my lore.
We have lore. We are prepared for lore. It's going to be lore-tastic. Is that a word? Lore, no. Lore-tastic.
Yes, it is now.
Yes.
Lore-tastic.
Lore bombs.
Loregasm, that's better. We got to use that.
I don't know if we got that approved by our...
Rated T for T.
Yeah. But yeah, we have a lot of fun stuff. Not only lore, but we'll also be talking about localization, everything you ever wanted to know about localization, and probably a lot of stuff you didn't.
And a lot of stuff you didn't. That's right.
A lot of stuff you didn't.
A lot of stuff you didn't.
Okay, well, let's go ahead.
More lore.
Yes.
Yes.
Lots of lore. So let's go ahead and take our seats.
All right, let's do it.
Lore-tastic, not the other one. That was...
Dude, loregasm.
That was shouted out from the crowd.
It's okay. Next patch, it's going in.
That's 3.0. That's lore-tastic.
All right.
Okay. Don't say that word anymore.
Loregasm.
No. Okay. That's true. It is Vegas. And the cool thing is, you know, this is our first fully English panel.
Yes.
So you have no translation duties, unless I randomly start speaking in Japanese.
Don't do that, man.
Which has happened 3 times this week.
Already?
I don't even speak Japanese. It's just, I've just been so, you know, into it. Okay. We don't want to take up any more time.
Okay.
We have a lot of stuff to go through. Let's just jump right into it. Everything you ever wanted to know about Final Fantasy XIV lore and localization, and probably a lot of stuff you didn't.
Hopefully not a lot of stuff you didn't.
Maybe a lot of stuff.
Probably a lot of stuff. We'll see.
So, of course, like I said, we have with us Michael Christopher Koji Fox.
They do that for me.
I know. It's so awesome.
They do that for me.
You got one, and then I said, I'm not going on stage until I get one.
And they got you one?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Finally, man.
Yeah.
Now we're getting our due.
All right.
Finally. But,
so,
you know, I just want to, one thing I would point out real quick before we, your name is four names.
4 names.
And that's a lot to say. So is it cool if we just kind of go with...
Yeah, it's okay. Michael Christopher Koji Fox doesn't put on anything. It's long. Koji Fox.
Koji Fox. Okay, we're going to go Koji Fox. Otherwise, this is a 4-hour panel. Because I ask your name every single question. Dear Michael Christopher Koji Fox. Okay, well, let's jump into who you are. I mean, I know, but they should know. Your past projects.
Yeah, well, I want to start a little bit about you know, how I got into the industry. Yeah, it all started back, you know, when I was in, I think, junior high, and I drilled my first holes into my first Super Famicom game so it fit in the SNES.
Nice.
Yeah, some of those guys know, right? And then you realize you don't have to drill the holes anymore, just like pull out those little things that are inside. Yeah.
I mean, we don't advocate that, of course.
Hey, I don't work for Nintendo.
Yeah, that's true. We're good.
But yeah, and then in high school, I wanted to get into the game industry, and so I took some Japanese classes, and I took some programming classes. And I remember the first program that I ever did, I was in this group of 4 guys, and we had to make a game. So we decided, you know, let's make a game about going to Las Vegas.
Wow.
And one guy got to work on roulette, one guy got to work on blackjack, another guy got to work on slot machines, and I worked on the part where when you ran out of money, you had to go to the park and rob an old lady for more money. And it was like the woman would be walking like this, and you'd be in a tree, and there'd be this little bar going underneath, and you had to press the space bar just underneath her, or you'd get caught and hung by the Las Vegas police.
This was not in our rehearsals at all. I'm learning a lot about your past.
Yeah.
And it really starts to shape how you got to where you are right now.
And I got a C+, so I decided that I wasn't going into programming.
That's probably for the best.
And it's probably for the best.
2 paths diverged. And
2 paths diverged, and I took
go.
this one. I took the Japanese one, but I didn't know about localization at that time, and so I just went, you know, to Japan. I went to school in Japan. I got my degree in education. I taught for about 3 years in the northern island of Hokkaido, and it was a lot of stress. It was fun, but it was a lot of stress, and so to relieve my stress, I would go home, FF11, Beastmaster, yeah, and I couldn't get any parties as Beastmaster, man. I didn't need them. I had my own party. That little crab,
you're good.
Man. But, so yeah, and after that, I was online searching for, tips one day, and I came across the Square Enix site, and it said they were hiring. And so I applied, and rest is history.
One thing led to another.
And, one day I'm playing FF11, next day I'm translating FF11. So
that's pretty cool.
It was pretty awesome. I got to work with a bunch of great people, work on the Rise of the Zlart, Chains of Promethea, Treasures of Otorgon.
Yep. But I see, there's something here I see. I'm the biggest Square Enix fan in the world. I know every game, I've played them all. Code Age Commanders is not something that I'm super familiar with.
Code Age Commanders, yes, it's a great story. I left the FF11 team after Treasures of Otorgon and went on to do an offline game, Code Age Commanders.
Offline game, okay.
Offline game.
Yeah, right.
Package game. And I was working on this. I translated the whole game by myself, and the day after I finished, they came to me and said, yeah, we're not making an English version anymore. Aww. I still have all that data on my desktop.
You should just put it into a Word doc and let's just read through it. That's the panel now. Let's just go grab it.
But yeah, Code Age Commanders. So yeah, get that off the screen.
Yeah, let's not look back at the dark times where you finish the game and then.
Yeah, but after that, I got on to FF7 Dirge of Cerberus. That was really fun. I got to work with a lot of great people on that as well. I got to do voice recording and meet all the superstars. I got to meet Nomura-san for the first time. He
how did that go?
Emerged from his coffin and came up. I approve.
Just right back in.
Awesome
we're gonna have a talk after this panel. I feel like there's gonna be people waiting to talk to us.
But yeah, so after that, went back, worked a little bit on Wings of the Goddess, then got the nod from Tanaka-san and moved on to 14.
Yep.
And I've been working on that ever since.
Ever since.
Wow. Yeah.
Well, that's why you're here. So it worked out.
That's why I'm here. Yes. All right. Next slide, baby. All right. So yeah, there's a lot. Of talk. I've seen a lot of stuff on the forums.
A lot of comments, yes.
Like, I really love that quest name, or I really love this. Yeah, you're doing all this great translation.
Yep.
And it's sometimes I want to take credit for all that because
it makes you look good, right?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, sure, I did all that.
But again, it's not. You do that?
No.
Okay.
The community team can't hear this, right? They're busy.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I work with a bunch of great guys. It's not all me. I have 6 guys on the team. You can see 4 of them here. Another one is in Australia. He works remotely.
2 ethereal silhouettes.
Ethereal silhouettes there. We use help, but those are the main guys.
Very muscular. Localization people.
Localization! But yeah, they do the bulk of the work. We split it pretty much evenly. And they're great guys. And it's not just them. We have a very, very large in-house team of not only English, but French and German, and also Chinese translators as well.
Wow.
There are about 6 people on each of those teams as well. And what's really different about Square Enix is that they have the localization team for Final Fantasy XIV in-house.
Right.
So we're working right there with the dev team. And this is something that's gone on since the Tanaka times, and that Yoshida-san has followed through with as well. Is that localization is not something that happens after. It's something that happens with the rest of the development.
Yeah, they don't finish the game and then they go to you and say, okay, here you go.
Yeah.
It's like you're literally sitting next. I've seen your desks. You're literally sitting, cubicle to cubicle with the whole dev team.
Yeah, I mean, it helps us work faster. It helps us, be more efficient, provide more feedback. We get to talk with these guys. We get to go drinking with these guys. It's great. I mean, alcohol.
Well, Yoshida's picking the tab, but then
Yoshida never picks up the tab.
Don't say that.
He picks up the tab. He's not here.
He's not here.
It's good. But yeah, and so, okay. You might think, why do we have so many people? Why do you need 6 people to translate the language? Is it really that much?
I hear, yes. Let's see.
It's a lot of text.
I hear it's big.
It's a lot of text. So, in one patch, we get about 200,000 Japanese characters, which translates into about 100,000 words, which is about the size of one Kingdom Hearts game. And we get that in one patch.
So one patch, you get a Kingdom Hearts. So Kingdom Hearts, but every patch, then you come in.
Yes. And don't let Nomura-san see that slide, because
everyone just forget what you saw, and also forget the earlier comment about the coffin. That was really weird. But as you can see,
meant desk. coffin.
200,000 characters, each patch.
Each patch.
is
So
insanity.
yeah, text volume-wise, it's the size of an online
full console game.
And that's how much. And that's why, if we didn't have 6 people, you guys would be waiting 6-7 months for a patch. And I know you don't want to wait 6
No one wants to do that.
No. All right. So, what's next? Ah, yes. So, the translation. It's not just about butts, but it's mostly about bad puns. If it bleeds, we can kill it.
The best.
Yes. So yeah, but again, the bad puns is about this much. It's the funnest part, but it's not the whole part. We do a lot of stuff, quest dialogue, and all of the branches. You're playing through this quest. Have you beat this quest or not? Have you beat this other quest? Are you a legacy player?
Yeah,
Are you not
exactly.
a legacy player? All of that, even though it's one quest, you have to write stuff 4
Different
times.
branches of dialogue.
I mean, you have system messages.
The most exotic of translation tasks, I'm sure. System messages.
You hit Toad for 3 points of damage. That took like 10 weeks to decide.
That's what we told Yoshida, at least. It took 10 weeks. Oh, man, we need more people.
That's why I got 5 more guys. It's for battle messages. No, we have battle voices and balloon text and checks for CNS. We do stuff for you guys.
Yes. I don't know if I follow the proper flows, but I just kind of email Koji and I say, hey, could you look this over?
And then I just send it on to one of my other guys. It's like, hey, Paul, could you check this over? And then I get it back and it's like, hey,
here you go.
Hey, I finished this for you.
Here's that thing you've been looking for. Perfect.
But yeah, that, and then of course, the favorite. The Yoshi P posts that he does at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yes.
And we get in thinking, okay, I'm gonna a full day of in-game trans. Oh, it's 10 pages of Yoshi P posts that I have to get up in the next 2 hours. Oh boy.
Hey, we really want to post this, and I know it's 4 a.m., but if you could work on it, it's like great. You guys have seen the Yoshida posts. You've seen the bullet points. You've seen the fonts. The insanity.
It's insanity. And of course, because he's writing at like 3 in the morning, his ideas are all overlit like this. And so that guy needs to sleep. I don't think he sleeps at all.
I don't think he does sleep at all.
I've never seen him sleep, but that would be kind of scary if I had seen him sleep. So
just comes up to your desk and falls asleep. But
it's not just this. I mean, this is just about the translation and the localization we do. We also, again, because we're in Tokyo and we are working with the dev team, we get direct, interaction with those guys. And so we have all of these meetings with the devs. We get to go into their item meetings and the battle meetings and, talk about place names and maps and things like that. Give them feedback. But a lot of times it's just like, oh, you Americans want this? No. I'm like, well, we have to have this. Our American fans with it. Oh, they don't. Yes, they do. No, they don't. And that goes into the making up with devs, which again involves a lot of alcohol. And you're like, yeah, let me pour you another beer, sir.
You have to understand.
You have to understand. Oh,
they need to have this. Oh, okay.
Okay, yeah, we can change the UI for you.
Or you say, the night before, you guys agreed to this. You just don't remember.
Oh.
You approved everything.
Yeah, you approved it, right? I got your hand. You signed this.
It looks a little.
You were drunk. That's why it looks like my handwriting.
And of course, that's exactly the reason.
All right, but we can't forget.
We cannot forget.
We cannot forget
our good friends at QA. We can't. Okay.
This is what happens.
What we should have done is shown this to QA and have them.
And they would have.
They would have gotten that.
I am the worst speller. I think I get maybe 200 bugs a patch that are just
your typos.
Te should be spelled THE. Merriam-Webster says the correct spelling of te is.
The actual definition is. But of course, QA.
Those guys are awesome. They're actually all QAing 2.4 content right now.
Yes.
So like hardly any of them could make it here. I feel sorry for them, but I mean, they're working. They're fighting the good fight for you guys.
They're fighting for you guys.
Give it up for QA.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
All right. So let's get into the lore part. Enough of localization. Let's get into the lore. So let's talk about this. Let's start at the beginning.
The beginning?
This map in the beginning. This is probably the coolest thing that emerged from 1.0 is this map. And it's a realm forged by gods. And fleshed out by a couple guys with OCD. That's what it is. Because when you're working on lore, it's all about the details.
You need to have that OCD.
You need to have that OCD. You need to know. I mean, you need to know that what type of leather is it? I mean, is it like reptile leather, or is it like leather from a cow, or is it leather from a horse, and there's different kinds of stuff you want to use? And I mean, you got to have all those details because, the dev team's just like, we need leather.
We need one quest with leather, and it's up to you guys to figure out the rest.
To make sure that, that
because
leather.
if you guys don't know, the players are going to figure it out, and then they're going to come to you and say, hey, wait a second, but this leather doesn't exist in Eorzea.
Yeah.
Which they have, I'm sure.
Yes, they have.
That's happened before.
I've seen the posts. All right, so again, I don't want to take all the
credit
for this lore because
you're doing it so well.
Again, my main job is localization,
right?
And that's what I spend 90% of my time on. But I'm honored to be a part of the lore team. The lore, it was originally the 1.0 lore. It was created by this great man, Kenichi Iwao, who was Iwao-san's a great guy. Came from Capcom, was one of the original writers on Resident Evil. Did all of the work for FF11, built that whole world. Then came on to 14. Built this whole great foundation. I mean, he's the type of guy that on weekends, wears full plate armor and fights people because that's what he does.
Yeah, I loved when I visited his desk one time when we were in Japan, and it was just full of armor and swords and maces. And
I heard
huge books.
It's crazy. And he created this great world, and I got to work with him on that. And I was, it was one of those things, I got to help him create these little backstories and do that. He moved on to greater things, and his assistant, who is now the lead world planner, the main lore guy, is a guy named Banri Oda.
Oda, huh.
And Oda, did you recognize that last name, Oda?
A little bit.
You heard it before?
Yeah, let's...
Next slide, man. Boom. Nobunaga Oda. He brought the feudal Japan together. And this guy, Banri Oda, the guy that's in charge of the lore for 14, direct descendant, baby. Direct descendant. So yeah, if 30,000 people passed away tomorrow, he would be the new shogun.
I think that's how it works.
I think that's how it works.
He's here, he'll get there, just somehow. But yeah, that's lineage. I mean, that's...
That is.
How he gets to where he is.
It is. Okay, but I mean, this guy does most of the stuff. I mean, literally, 95% of the stuff is him. He's making all of that backstory. He's the one that's, doing all of the research, talking to the graphics teams, and making sure they have everything under control. And I just come in and I help give a little advice, and then I'm able to work with naming. I'm able to work with backstories on some of the stuff when they need extra stuff, and help him out. And again, I'm really honored to be able to be a part of that and work with it. But I don't want to take his credit because he is the man. But yeah, so how is all of this done? Well, in a perfect world, the lore masters would make the lore and the story, and they'd say, make my game. And then everyone would follow those rules, and everything would be great. The problem is, that's not what happens on this team. On this team, the dev teams are the ones with the power. And so you have a producer that says, I want to destroy the moon. And then you'll have, the event team saying we need a new type of teleportation, but not aetherite, not magic, but it's got to, teleport. And then, of course, you're going to have, the battle team that's yeah, we need PvP where players are killing each other, but it needs to be friendly.
Needs to be nice.
You have to do this nice, because we all love each other.
All the grand companies are best friends, but you have to fight.
But you have to fight and kill.
So that makes sense. And then, of course...
then you have our team is we want bears.
And all that leads to...
is my mind. But yeah, and so, we get together, Oda-san and myself, and we talk about, okay, how are we going to make this work? How are we going to make it fit with the rules that are already established for Eorzea, how to make it fit with all of the canon, everything that's come up until now, fit within the story. And so we go and we research, we come up with our own ideas, we send them back to the producer and the event team and the battle team saying, okay, we can do it if you change this, or we can do it if you slightly adjust this, then this is how we do it. Or, okay, we want you to do this as well, or we want you to use these types of designs on this. If you want to have a bear, make it look like this. And yeah, they're usually receptive to that, and then it's that back and forth that happens. And then it comes back, and on top of that, then it's about fleshing out the story from there. And once that foundation is set by Oda-san, then I can go in and I can work on that foundation is set by the team. Oda-san builds the house.
Right.
And then I can add a story about how the house was built on an Indian burial ground, and like the kid is haunted and it's going to kill all his parents.
That's
what I do.
That is factual. That is correct.
That is factual. All right. So, again, how do I, get involved in the lore creation? It all started back in 1.0. In 1.0, I mean, they had their base story there, but they didn't really have a good medium with which to express that story.
To get it out
to get that
the
story
players.
out.
They had it somewhere.
Yeah. And so there was a lot of stuff that was just really, bland and lacking in the 1.0 story. I mean, you had that main story that was fleshed out, but then you had the rest of the world just didn't really seem alive because there wasn't a lot of information on it.
Sure.
And so I went, to the team and I said, is there something I can do, to make this world a little bit more alive? And they said, well, I guess leave quests, that wouldn't be too much harm. You wouldn't do too much harm. So
you wouldn't do anything.
I wouldn't
too
do
bad.
anything too bad. Yeah, just leave quests.
You won't get in the way too much. Have some leave quests.
Yeah, and so the leave quests in the Japanese, you see here, basically what it says is that, there are some Fs in Lenosha, and they're like eating people. Go kill them. That's it. And so I'm like, well, I mean, yeah, that tells you what to do, but it doesn't really tell you...
What's your motivation?
What's the motivation? What's going on here? Why do you need to kill all of these Fs? They're just Fs, right? So I translate. Do you have the tale of Sir George of House Martin and his squire, who are traveling through Lenosha and get attacked by Fs. Sir George is maimed and killed, and his young squire says, oh, I must get revenge, but I am too weak. Adventurers, kill all the Fs for me and take revenge on House Martin.
That's the voice, too, exactly.
Yes, of the squire. And so things like that. I mean, there's another one in Ulda. It's like, please make earrings for the people of Ulda because they sell well. No. Right, erotic body piercing. There's all of these male and female prostitutes in Ulda, and
we're a team game, right? Team.
But we've got sexual themes.
Okay, we're good then. We're good. Legal. We're good.
Bases covered. That's right. Okay. So yeah, I mean, this again, I kind of, went off on a few tangents, but the lore guys, they saw this, and the writers saw that, and it's like, wow, this is actually really good. And a lot of the Japanese fans as well were like, wow, the English is so cool. Can we do something like that? And so for 2.0, when Oda-san took over, they wanted to put more of that in the actual Japanese. So right now, the Japanese and English are really
close.
Lot, they're the same because they're taking a lot of the ideas that I have and they're implementing them in that. And so. Yeah, so I got I got working this way. Let's see, 1.0. I have some more stories about 1.0 before we go to our next slide. 1.0, like I said before, that 1.0 again was lacking in a lot of story, but there actually was a lot of story that you guys never got to hear because for some whatever reason we didn't really get to things happen.
In
like
1.0,
a moon fell.
There was Dalamud and yeah, a
lot of things happened. So there was actually a lot of really cool story. And I want to talk a little bit about some of the stuff that we had. For example, in Limsa Lominsa, the Arcanist, the original Arcanist quest that was supposed to be released at 1.0. At 1.0, they had to take it out. It was actually about the main theme was that there was this disease that was spreading around Lenosha, all of Lenosha. It's called the Green Rot, and it would infect all these people, and they would die. And so to make money off of this, a lot of evil merchants would come in and they would try to smuggle in like snake oil tonics and things like that and then sell them to the people dying so they could get their money because they knew they were going to die anyway because people were desperate. And so you as the assessors, because at Melvin's Gate, or the Arcanists are, they're assessors, they basically check the stuff that comes in. You would have to, one of the jobs would be you'd have to check ships and confiscate all of this contraband. And so that was the kind of story that was going to be in the Arcanist story, but that got completely scrapped and turned into the current version. And then there was also, this is also Limsa Lominsa, but the Executioner's Guild. There used to be an Executioner's Guild. Before it was the Marauders Guild, it was the Executioner's Guild, because the original plan was to have them be a guild of executioners. And what you would do as a player is you would enter the guild, and then you would start as the lowly headsman, and you would learn how to kill people as an executioner with your mighty axe. And yeah, I was.
That sounds
I mean,
pretty
we
awesome.
had like all the names. You could like start at headsman, and you go to Carnifex, and then you'd go to Butcher, and
wow.
I mean, we had all this cool stuff. And but then they decided, no, we want to go pirates. And I was like, oh, pirates. Well, we can't call them executioners anymore, so we changed it to marauders.
Huh.
But the Bloody Executioners, that group that's in Limsa, is basically a shout out to what they were supposed to be, the Executioners. And so that's some cool stories.
That's pretty cool.
About 1.0. I mean, that's some stuff that came in. All right, but again, let's get back to what I do, the lore work that I do. The main thing that I do is place names, and I love doing place names because I get to have so much fun with this. And place names are a great place to extract lore, because what I do is they usually hand me a map like this. On the left side, you're going to see a map of, that's a 1.0 map, and on the right side is a 2.0 map. But what they do is they print this out, they hand this to me, and then they say, okay, we need names for stuff. I mean, they already have the names for the areas, and they have the names for the major landmarks like the cities. But other than that, there's really nothing in there. And so what I do is I go in, I go in and play the game, and I look at these maps, and I just start naming things. What happened is, and when you name something, you just don't name it, Joe's Bridge. You don't do that. You give it a name, and with that name, you give it a history. And when I gave it a name, I get to write that history as well. And so in 1.0, if you remember, again, the maps were very devoid of everything.
They were very, yes.
And because, for me on the localization and the lore side, you can't add landmarks. We don't have that kind of power. What I can do is I can at least name things and give them history, and so when players are walking through, they can see at least a name, and hopefully from there, they can get this vision of, oh, maybe something cool happened here. So, for example, in like 1.0, in the Kurthis Eastern Highlands, there was a place called Scarwing Fall. And so people are like, oh, what is Scarwing Fall? It's basically just one of those ravines that some places it looked like this, some places it looked like this, some places it looked like this, and some places it looked like this. But this one was Scarwing Fall. And so what is Scarwing Fall? Well, the history that I made to go with it was that, again, because you have the Dragon Song War, this 1,000-year war that's been going on between Ishgard and Dravania, that there's always going to be these great battles. And Scarwing was one of the heroes of Dravania. And he would come and he would scorch the earth and kill all of these dragoons. But then one time, the Ishgardians finally developed this ballista where they could,
take him
shoot
down.
These big arrows in the air. And they finally took down Scarwing. And that is where Scarwing, when he took the hit, he fell into one of these ravines. But because it was so deep, they didn't know if he died or is he still living down there. And they say that you can still hear these rumbles and roarings, but they don't know if he's dead or not. And
so all that just comes from you have a spot, and you have to.
And I needed something, so I put that in there. I mean, things like that, things like the Weeping Vale and the Choke, which are also in the Kurthis, but it's the lowlands, again, the place you can't go to in 2.0. It was about, again, another battle that took place between the Ishgardians and the Dravanians, between the land forces of the Dravanians, because they have their ground-based dragons that can't fight. And so what they were going to do is they had one force go in and draw the Dravanians into this place called the Weeping Vale, which is an enclosed area. And there, these guys would hold off the dragons and they would fight. And basically, they were supposed to be a sacrifice. They were supposed to get killed, so the dragons would move further in and they would hit this place called the Choke, which is a very tight ravine. And in there is where the true force would hit them. And so you have the Weeping Vales because the people sacrificed and everyone died, but it was for the better cause because it got them in the Choke and killed everyone. So things like that, which never got into the game.
Yeah, which never, besides right now at least now.
Right now, but now people
everyone
know.
here
but
knows
now people know.
The hard work that you put into it.
It was there. It was there. But 2.0, there's lots of cool stuff in 2.0 as well. For example, in Thanalan, you have that big, huge, massive rock that's just in the middle of that depression there, called the Unholy Air. And it's like, what's the Unholy Air? What's unholy about it? Whose air is it? We don't know. Well, the story behind that is that appeared right after the calamity. And so for the small folk, the regular people that are living around there, they just see this big rock appear one day. And the day before, Bahamut came and flew over and destroyed everything. And so the rumor started that this huge rock was actually an egg laid by Bahamut, and that now that Bahamut's gone, one day it's going to get warm enough, it's going to crack, and Bahamut's sun is going to come out and destroy the world again. And so,
Of course.
I mean, we have
It's the small folk, they'll believe anything.
and of course, Yoshida-san's over there right now. Oh, I can destroy the world again?
It's already there, ready to go.
But that, and then also, another cool thing is the continents. We all know about Aldenard, right?
Right.
And then you have Ilsabard, where the Garland Empire is, and then in the Far East you have Othard. And these names are actually, they also have this kind of cool history to them. The legend is, and that the legend that's told in Eorzea is that Aldenard, Ilsabard, and Othard were three brothers that were really tight, and they always wanted to stay together, and they made a pact that they would never be apart, and they would always stay together, until Ilsabard and Othard saw that Aldenard had all this cool stuff, and he was like hoarding all of the, the cool resources, the beautiful land, and so they decided to betray him, and they moved away and broke away from him, and left Aldenard all alone. But what happened next was the 12 saw this and saw, the wrong that was done by Ilsabard and Othard to the third brother, and so the gods decided to bless only Aldenard and not bless the other two, and that's why you have the land blessed by the gods, and that's why that's separate from Ilsabard and Othard. It's a pretty cool way to explain plate tectonics. But yeah, so there's that, and yeah, that's not in the game either. But so there's all these cool stories, and a lot of other names that are out there. So when you're walking around and you see a name on the map,
Pops up.
Yeah, pops up. Just think, okay, why would this be named this? And we try to get lore nuggets in there as well to explain about those things. But sometimes there just aren't any because there's no way to explain them. There's no time to explain them. There's no NPC available. But yeah, it's a cool way to find lore. And if you have any more questions about a place name, forums, Fern Halls, I'll try to answer. All right.
Woo! So you're going to have a lot of questions now when you go back.
Yeah.
The lore forums basically
it's
are
good.
just going to explode.
That's what I do.
So those delay patches and no, I'm just kidding. Don't worry, you'll be fine.
No.
He's got everybody else doing the work, so we're good.
All right, but that's enough for me. I've talked enough.
You've
Let me have
talked
some
quite
more.
a lot.
Let's answer some questions, man.
Let's get to questions. We have a ton of questions that we gather ahead of time.
Wait. If I shut up, how can I answer the questions?
I'll answer. I'll just wing it. It's fine. I'll just make it up. That's how it goes, right? We just wing it.
All right.
But we gathered a ton of questions ahead of time. We use our lore forum, which I'm sure you guys all go to every day and ask your questions. Actually, in fact, the lore question gathering thread that we had for Fan Festival was actually one of our largest threads that we got. So
even more questions than PLL,
no
baby.
pressure. Yeah, it was about the same. So no pressure. We have a ton of questions to get.
Okay.
So you ready?
Yeah.
Here we
Let's
go.
do this.
So lore-wise, how do you explain the large quantity of hovering monsters? How do they do it?
Ooh.
Hugels, jellyfish, how? How does it happen?
There's actually an explanation for this, and it's there's already been some explanation of it in the game.
Okay.
Basically, like the Eorzea, and
I hope
those
you're
jellyfish.
getting it right, because I'm not going to be able to fix
Those fish. There's also like the fish in the Sea of Clouds, those flying things as well, that they all have like extra bladders. It's like this twin bladder thing. One bladder is for bladdery things.
As bladders are wont to do, right?
And the other bladder is used for floating. And it will fill with, let's say, a noxious gas, and it will allow monsters to float up. And the thing is, people believe that this was developed because, again, Eorzea can be a harsh realm in some places, and to escape enemies or to get closer to more food, that this was something that was developed over time, that certain monsters use this so they can expand, their territory and survive longer. And that's why you see it, you can see it in the jellyfish, you can also see it in the pugils, which are wavekin, but we also have, like, the balloon bug. The balloon bug, which is, I think, it's bait that you use when you're in the Sea of Clouds. It's a bug that floats. So you have vilekin that also have it, and then of course there are like reptiles. So the scalekin that are also flying around in the Sea of Clouds that also have this. And so even though they come from different categories, that there might have been a proto type of animal which they all branched from, or maybe they all got this from the gods, or you leave that up for speculation, but that is the reason. Bladder.
Double bladders.
Double bladder.
I actually had that once, and I saw a doctor.
Twin bladder.
Was no
Twin Bladder.
big
That's
deal.
a great game name, Twin Bladder.
Twin bladders.
Twin Bladder.
So, why are the Alligans so huge?
Well,
I'm very interested to hear this answer.
Actually, the Alligan, there's only 2 Alligan that are huge, Zandy and Amon,
See, etc. Don't worry about that.
etc. But the reason behind this, and this is also explained in the Crystal Tower story, so people that don't want to hear it, spoilers.
Please
it's not
leave
that
the
big of a
room.
spoiler. It's not that big
We'll
of a
wait.
spoiler. I'm assuming all of you have played this. But they did a lot of genetic manipulation. Again, the Alligans were a highly, highly, highly advanced society, and it's that technology that ended up bringing them down. They started, reaching for the sky. It's like the, Tower of Babel type of thing. So
Yep.
they wanted to be closer to the gods, and so they kept building and kept, improving on their technology, and they forgot all of the things that, that they should have remembered, that calamities come when,
Yep.
the hubris of the 5 races and da-da-da, but they forgot, and they just started doing all of this crazy stuff, and that's what was their downfall. One of the crazy things that they started doing was, again, genetic manipulation, which made them huge, but, Zandy ate all the food in the land because it was so big, and that's what destroyed the Alligan nation. Zandy ate all the food.
All the food. That's the real reason.
That's the real reason.
Lore bombs. No, we don't say that word.
Prude.
All right. This was a long one. I kind of cut it down. It has been noted in-game that Ramuh does not seek to temper people to gain followers in the way that Ifrit, Leviathan, and so on do. So why are there so many touched sylphs?
Okay, this is actually, it's a little bit different from the other beast tribes, because the other beast tribes, it's all about, the primal is summoned because they worship, and then the primal goes, I want more thralled.
Right.
And
That's how they
everybody
sound.
gets tempered. That's not
That's how the
they sound.
Soken recordings go,
Yes.
usually.
But with Ramuh, yes, he's a little bit more laid back. He's not all about, controlling everyone and creating this, dominion where it's just Ramuh and his followers. He's a man of reason. He's a judge. So the thing is that the sylphs are a little bit crazy. And some of the sylphs, again, they want a strong leader. They look at the other beast tribes and see that, these beast tribes are strong because they have been tempered or they have been drowned, and that's what gives them that connect to, their primal. And that's why they're so strong. And so you have these people that want that same thing. And so these crazy sylphs, they go to Ramuh and it's like, oh, temper me! And Ramuh's like, oh, whatever. If that's what you want, I'm not one to judge. Primal judgment.
No.
But he is one to
I
judge.
knew you had something. I knew you were building towards it.
But the thing is, Ramuh doesn't force it on other sylphs. And that's why in the forest you have sylphs that aren't touched, and they're not worried about, we don't want to summon Ramuh, we don't want to do this, we just want to live our lives and, be friendly with, the 5 races. And then there's the other ones that are like, no, we must do this. And that's why you also have that quest where you have the untouched, the regular sylphs,
Right.
and get them so they can be tempered, because, again, they want to create that armor.
Interesting. All right. We learned a little bit of Thancred's past in 2.2. Will we eventually be able to learn about the other Archon's past as well?
Yes, you will. I cannot say more than that, but in 3.0 and 3.x and beyond, you'll get to hear a lot about Y'shtola, Ida, Papalymo, a lot of their backstory, a lot of storylines focusing on them. So yeah, Heaven's Word. Please look forward to it.
Good job. I like it. So, has there
Maybe
been
Tataru too.
Oh, okay. Has there been a slow and controlled revival regarding the use of white magic and the training of adventurers as white mages, or is the player character the one and only white mage trained outside the Pajal?
Okay, actually, this is a really good question because it ties into the Warrior of Light theme as well. Because you think, okay, there are, 2.5 million Warriors
Right.
of Light out there.
There's a lot of Warriors of Light.
No way. So, the dragon's usually dead, yeah.
Yeah.
But this is one of those story things that you kind of have to look past. That if everyone was the Warrior of Light, then no one gets to have that sense of being that hero.
Right.
And so even though you're playing with all of these people who think they're the Warrior of Light, only you are the Warrior of Light. I meant you. No, I meant you. But there's only one. There's only supposed to be one. And that's the same thing here as well. While there are a lot of white mages out there, story-wise, it's supposed to be you. You're the one that was chosen to do this, and you're the one that's getting this training from the Pajals. What I was told to say by Oda-san is that there are also other ways of getting white magic as well. Like they did the revival, right? Because it's, the fallen city of Amdapor, they had their white mages and they're reviving that magic.
Sure.
That there are other groups also trying to revive white magic using more nefarious means, and that these people might show up in a future patch. So,
Ooh.
yeah, I can't say any more than that. That's what he told me to say.
I like the teaser though, that's nice.
Right. Ooh.
Here's go. Does the West Shroud still exist, or was it destroyed by Dalamud?
It was destroyed by Dalamud and it still exists.
No, but you see the question, you can't just say, okay, you're going to have to explain.
It's just that it was one of those areas, again, depending on where it was, there are areas that got more hit by Dalamud than the others, and got more hit by, the mega flare than the others. And, when Louis Sois did his thing, and he stopped it, and he was able to get that, that ethereal energy back and return it to the planet, but he got stopped before he could turn it all, and that's why you have all of this weirdness going on. There was a lot of weirdness left in the West Shroud. And so Gridania is still in the process of cleaning it up. I mean, good help is hard to find. There's lots of, sweeping and chopping and things that needs to be done.
Plus, they're all too busy hugging trees to... Sorry,
You hate Gridania,
I had to just put that in there.
Lamsa Laminsa, baby!
Yep. Yes! We're gonna have a riot. All right. Everybody's saying Maelstrom. Woo! Okay, good. You guys can't hear it in the background. All right. Let's jump on to the next one.
All right.
Oh. This is the longest question we had,
Too
and this
long,
is even
get
after I
away.
shortened it. So I'm just gonna read a rapid fire. So what happened to the city of Amdapor, and where are its inhabitants? So do you want to... In the War of the Magi, at the conclusion of the 5th Astral Era, we know the white mages of Amdapor and the scholars of Nim are at war with the third nation of black mages. However, we are never given a name for that third nation. What is the name of the 5th Astral Era nation of black mages which went to war with Amdapor and Nim?
I don't know. That's...
I would be so angry if you made me read that full question. And then...
No, actually, I was told not to give the name, but I can actually tell you a little bit more about this. Again, what happened at the end of the 5th Astral is there was this big war, and you have, the white mages of Amdapor and the scholars of Nim teamed up, and they fought this third nation of black mages. And they were weakened, and that's why when the Great Flood came, that calamity came, they were pretty much wiped out. This third nation of black mages, then there's that speculation that it could be Beladia, which was 6th Astral Era. It's where Silda and Ulda both came from, that one nation. But that, again, that was 6th Astral Era. This was a group of black mages, a different nation, but the people that survived that war and ended up surviving the flood fled to the area where Beladia is, and in the 6th Astral Era, they created a new civilization there, which turned into Beladia. So while it wasn't Beladia, it was the roots, the ancestors of the people that eventually came and made Beladia.
Interesting.
Okay.
Much better than the I don't know answer.
But the name, I don't know.
Okay. Well, we can't say it.
All right.
So this is a good one. How old is Connie Senna?
Ooh.
And why is she the only adult-looking Pajal?
Okay. Her age is, and I wrote this down, she is in her late 20s. But again, that's her spiritual age. As you know, the Pajal, physically they all stop growing at about 10, 11 years old. That's why they all look like children. But they can live for, live full lives. And so you have people that will look like children but are actually 40, 50, 60 years old. In the case of Kanisena, up until towards the end of 1.0, it was Esumian that was the elder seedseer that was in control of Gridania. But when the grand companies came up, they did the swap. Kanisena, who was in the forest, communing with the elementals at that time, came back to take over the grand company. The thing is, grand company, moon is coming down, people are going to fight, what's going to happen, Garleans are coming, it's a very tense time. In the other city-states, you have Merowib, kick-ass, I'm going to... And then, in Ulda, you have, Nanamo, who's like, the whatever of her line, and you've got Raubon, who's like, "Rrr." And so you have these really strong leaders in the other city-states. And then here, the people in Gridania understand that their elder seed seers are really powerful, but from the rest of it, it's like, that's just a kid.
Yeah.
You can't take these people seriously.
Right.
And so, again, her making herself up to present herself to the people of the other nations, so they will take her seriously. She's basically making herself look older than she is, so people will take her seriously. But spiritually, she's in her late 20s, physically in her early teens.
Wow,
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
The company of heroes was not compromised of members with the Echo. So how did most, or some of them, come away with victories over Leviathan and Titan without being tempered?
Okay. This is unlike the players who have the Echo and can go in with 6 people and just like, oh yeah, we can defeat you. The company of heroes didn't have the Echo. So basically, what they did was they tried to overwhelm with numbers. They would go into these battles with sometimes hundreds of soldiers, and you'd have the different waves. And the first wave would go in, Leviathan would go, they would all be tempered, turn around, fight the second wave. These guys would kill each other, and then the third wave would come in, and they would see on the ground, you have the shining cone that shows, I'm going to temper, and they would run out of the way. And then temper would come down, and then those guys would fight, and it would be over. So basically, I don't know if you could see the cone.
I don't know if that's...
But, that's the thing. It's like, it was basically, they knew about the tempering, and they knew that they were going to lose a lot of people, so they would go overwhelmed with numbers. The remaining few that made it through those first 3 waves would fight. There would be like 2 or 3 left that would come back. So if you look at all of these battles, and I think there's even some in-game text that mentions it, but they would go in with massive numbers, they'd get wiped out, 2 or 3 guys would come back, take all the credit for it, and get all this money and drink it away.
That's how it works.
That's how it works.
So are there any constellations in the night sky of Eorzea?
Okay.
Do they have any good stories to them? If not, can the concept be looked into later on?
Actually, this is something that was planned back in 1.0, having constellations. And if you look in the Eorzean sky, you can see the constellations there. They're actually implemented in the game, and they move. But as for good stories surrounding them, well, in Ishgard, there's a lot of good stories surrounding the skies because you have the astrologians, you have the observatorium, and I can say that because 3.0, Heaven's Word, is going to be focusing on Ishgard, there's going to also be a real big focus on, again, the people that live in Ishgard. And then you have, the astrologians that live in Ishgard as well, and, you're going to hear more about the stories there and what they do and what they're doing, in that, the observatorium. We already have a little bit of information talking about how they can monitor the movement of the dragons by watching the dragon star. And so they know when the dragon star is in a certain place that the dragons will attack, and then they inform the dragoons and the dragons attack. That's all in the game now, but hopefully we'll get in a little bit deeper into that in 3.0.
Nice. So goblins, Kakirin, and Mamaljaw are all considered beast tribes. Is this just because of their non-human appearance, or do they also worship primals like the main 5 beast tribes and the Mughals do?
Well, yeah, right,
Don't say
I have
anything.
to be careful. There are,
Yoshida, so
you have, like the Sahagin and the Amalja. They're really upfront about, their worship and,
right.
They want to attack and do things. The Goblin and the Kikirin, they don't really talk about, what they worship. They
right.
don't talk about their religion because it's not important in their everyday lives. That's not to say that maybe they don't worship primals. We don't know. Maybe some of us do know, but maybe some of us can't say. So.
See, they don't bring it up. They don't, go to parties, and that's not the first thing that comes out in conversation. It's, subdued for now.
Yes. All right.
It has been hinted, but never actually confirmed, are the members of the Circle of Knowing actually the Archons? If this will be revealed later, then can you tell us what the tattoos on their necks mean?
Yeah. We can confirm this. The Circle of Knowing are the Archons. And the thing is, we have to explain a little bit about what Archons are. Archons is this word that kind of, lives on in Eorzean history, and it's gone back multiple eras. That nearing the end of an astral era, when a calamity is building up, people that remembered the past will come to Eorzea, and they will try to inform the people there that, okay, something bad is going to happen. You need to be prepared for this. Most of the people will be like, well, there's crazy people just preaching in the streets. But some of them will get prepared, and when the calamity actually does come, those will be the people that survive and can carry on the line to the next Astro Era. And that happens each and every Astro Era and before going into an Umbral Era. And so while it's not the same people, those people have been historically called Archons. And it just happened that, during the 6th Astro Era at the end, the people that came and informed the people of Eorzea of this coming calamity were the Circle of Knowing, so they became the Archons, and the people in Eorzea started calling them the Archons.
Interesting.
And those tattoos on the neck, there'll be an explanation of what they mean in the next patch. So you'll know.
Patch 2.4.
Patch 2.4, yeah.
Spoilers.
At least I hope there will be.
Spoilers.
For somebody.
We wrote something, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Hot scoops. I noticed that we only get to see here Midlander children. What about children from the other races?
Oh, they're there. That locked door that you can't get through?
Exactly. They keep them safe. They don't let them out to exercise.
I mean, there's Elezen children in Gridania, so those are there. There's going to be, and I was told that there'll be more Mikote children in 3.0. So yeah, they'll be running around. So yeah, they're there.
They exist. They don't just magically.
But again, Eorzea is a realm filled with like gigantoads. Do you want your children running around being eaten by a gigantoad? I'd keep them locked in that little room.
Yeah, that's the safest place to keep your children.
Safest place, man.
Locked in a little room. I mean, come on. Can you please talk on the origin of the in-game expletive, Thal's Buddy Balls?
Yes. As you know, I like swearing.
I do know that about you.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, this is a fantasy world, and we're talking about everyday people here who have this. They have hard lives, and they live these hard lives. They have to fight gigantoads to get their breakfast, and I mean,
protect their babies.
Protect their babies. Calamities happening.
Left and right.
They have a hard job. It's almost all manual labor.
Right.
And so, I mean, people are going to swear because that's natural. That's a natural thing to do. I didn't want to, have the game be whitewashed.
Right.
You wanted to make it feel real by having people swear. And so I wanted to get as much swearing as possible. And I got that descriptor, language
all because of you.
All because of me. Just put as much in as possible. And so, but yeah. And so, when you think about swearing in, on Earth, a lot of it is based on religion. I mean, you have your goddams and things like. It's basically blasphemy.
You don't need to make a list.
I'm going to stop there.
Okay.
But it's that blasphemy is part of putting strength behind those words. And so because Eorzea has 12 gods, it's like, hey, that's 12 gods we can use when we swear. And so when back in 1.0, working with Eorzea on this, and he came to me with okay, I want to make 12 gods. Can you help me with the names? I was thinking, okay, the first thing I thought was okay, how can I use these names in some expletive? This is going to be awesome, expletive. I want to.
That's how you work. Swear. You work backwards.
Yeah, I work backwards. How can I swear with it?
Yeah, and then we go back from there.
And so I thought, okay, what do I want to use? Balls. I want to use balls. What rhymes with balls? And I was like, can we call the god Thal? And he was like, I don't know, it's kind of short. I kind of want a longer name in Japanese. And so how about Nald Thal? And it's like, Nald Thal's bloody balls. I mean, I don't know. It doesn't have the good ring to it.
It doesn't roll off your tongue, I guess.
I mean, so how about we make Nald Thal, we split it and make it like a double aspected god. So basically, before I mentioned anything, it was just a regular god that was going to be the god of the afterlife. And then I said, because I wanted to use Thal separately, so for Thal's bloody balls and Thal's balls, I made him a dual-aspected god. So that's how Nald Thal became dual-aspected, is so I could use Thal with Thal's balls.
I don't think we should be telling these stories. This is lifting a lot of the veil.
And another thing about Thal's balls,
one more?
Is that before we submitted the PlayStation 3 version to Sony, you have to submit it ahead of time so they can do a check, an in-game check. We didn't have all the translation done. One of the things that wasn't complete was the little balloon text that pops up when you run next to an NPC, and maybe a little balloon will pop up in it. And there was probably about like 300 of those, and we hadn't finished any of it. But if you don't have text in there, then Sony will fail your master, and you have to go back and remake the game, and it costs a lot of money.
Okay.
And so I just put Thal's balls in 300 times. So like every NPC that you talk about, Thal's balls, Thal's balls, Thal's balls. They just say, we passed, baby. We passed the Sony test. They accepted us. Thal's balls.
I wish I knew these answers ahead of time so I could prepare myself mentally for them. All right. What does Brangwine want with all these bags and bags of deceased adventurers' goods?
What everybody wants. He wants money. He's just going to sell that on eBay.
Does eBay?
I mean, the market.
Oh, yeah, the market board. I don't think eBay exists.
It's just money. It's just money. It's always money. He wants coin.
It's all about money.
It's all about money.
Oh, jeez. It is neither outright stated or implied that natural-born Garleans are unable to or do not use ether. Is this because they do not possess the knowledge to do so, i.e. they can be taught to do so, or is it because they are unable to?
Okay, this is an easy question because they are genetically unable to. It's in their DNA because they have all of this knowledge. I mean, they basically go and take over a bunch of different countries, but they don't destroy the nations when they go and take them over. They basically kill the leaders and then let the nations remain as they are because they realize that's a better way to have them remain loyal to the Garleans and not have an uprising after that. And because of that, the Garlean Empire has all of this access to all of this information. But even with all of that access to all of that information on magic, they still can't use it because, again, it's in their genetic makeup. They are just not predisposed to be able to use magic. And that's why they have built up all of that Machina to fight against the magic, which is so powerful in Eorzea.
Interesting. Well, I think we're getting close on time.
Okay.
But I just want to show you guys, we do have a ton of questions.
That's Peter, Pablo,
A lot of questions.
Succession.
Lot of questions.
Why don't Highland? Why don't male Highlanders?
Should we do that one? Do you want to do that one? That last question?
No.
Okay.
I'll do it on the stream.
Okay.
I got to get people to watch the stream.
That's a good idea. We're actually going to have Koji Fox go back to the stream and answer those last remaining questions that we weren't able to get to.
Yep. And any other questions that you have, just throw them on that lower form. I will look over them and I'll try to answer as many as I can at a later date.
He writes books as replies, and so let's talk about what we have here.
Oh yeah. Okay. It says join us. This is kind of a shameless plug. We are actually the localization team that I talked about before. The English team is looking to hire. And so, if any of you are awesome at Japanese, awesome at English, awesome at 14, awesome at lore, and can suck up to me, boom, you got the job. It's got to be 5 out of 5. But yeah, if any of you are interested, grab me on the floor. We also have information up on the forums and on the Square Enix website about what you have to do to apply. But I'm serious here. Thal's balls.
Thal's balls.
All right.
So before we go, something that we noticed people talking about today, of course, was the Heavensward trailer.
Yeah.
And I've already started to see people talking about the song in the trailer.
Yeah.
And already they're trying to guess and figure out the lyrics of the trailer.
Are you telling me you want me to sing the lyrics?
Yes.
Okay.
That is exactly what I'm telling you.
Okay. For all you out there in the etherland.
You guys ready?
Beneath. Okay, I'm not going to sing. I'm just going to read them.
Okay, that's probably a better idea.
The lyrics. Beneath the gazing stars, vales deep and forests dark, betrayed by loyal hands, her wrath stirred. Bound fast unto our fate, one path, one burden great, yet ever do our aching souls point heavensward, and ever rings out our song. That's the first part. And then the second part is the dragon part in the dragon language, which I prepped for 3.0. Yay.
Whoa. This is world premiere.
Dis an som in, ros an kin, saljas afa an, ma mona, Eorzea.
I got that one.
That means our slumber disturbed, my brothers wake, vengeance will be ours, the saviors must perish.
Whoa.
So that's cool.
That is awesome.
All right.
And now I got to watch the trailer again with lyric in mind.
Okay.
But that is the end of our lore panel, you guys. Thank you very much for being here.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Koji Fox. Like we said, he's going to go back to the stream now, answer some more questions.
Are we back there? Yep.
But yes, thank you all for coming.
All right.
One more
See you
round of
guys.
applause.